This episode is brought to you by Zarzar Law. I'm investigative journalist Molly Barrows. For years, I've covered the stories that made headlines in Northwest Florida and all along the Gulf Coast. Murders, missing persons, and mysteries of all kinds. These cases are far from over for many victims because the full story has yet to surface. Join me for Gulf Coast Confidential, where I dive into the saltier side of the South and expose the lies, greed, and corruption that often weighs down the truth. It's time to turn the tide and get a shot at justice. Hey, y'all, I'm Molly, and welcome to the Gulf Coast Confidential podcast.
Hi, I'm Pam.
And if you haven't already, we would love it if you would please like and subscribe, and I think you know how to do it. We would also love to hear from you. Please leave a comment or a suggestion about a case, because as we talk about these what the feezy cases that pop up here along the Gulf Coast, they really pop up everywhere. And in fact, that's what we're talking about today. Today's episode is called Tik Tok Star to Convict. Jealous cocaine-snorting Ali Abulaban murdered wife, friend. He was known on TikTok as Gin Kid, but on the stand, prosecutors called him the persona of Scarface. In fact, there was never any question former San Diego TikToker Ali Abulaban killed his estranged wife and her friend in the luxury apartment he once shared with her. But what the jury actually had to decide is if it was a crime of passion, as he claimed, or was it a cold, calculated killing? And after you hear this evidence, to me, it's not surprising at all that the jury came to the verdict that they came to, Pam.
Not surprising at all. I watched this whole case on court TV.
Infuriating.
Oh, yeah. It just made me so mad. My blood pressure stayed high. The trying to keep it together girl was like, I want to throw stuff at my TV. I couldn't stand it.
Well, I don't blame you for wanting to throw something at him. Tell us a little bit about Ali Abulaban before we get into what he actually did.
Okay. All right. Ali Abulaban, he was of Palestinian descent. His mom and dad had moved over here, and they lived in Virginia. And as a boy, he was kind of outgoing and funny and goofy, they said, but he got bullied. His ears kind of stuck out a little bit, and he learned to make fun of himself before other people did on that, laugh with me, not at me type of thing, which, that's not nice for people to do that, but people do stuff like that. It's not, I don't think they mean it that terrible, but he would joke and say, well, me and Mickey Mouse are bros or whatever, or I get in Disney World free, or if I tune right here, I get XM or whatever. It was kind of funny.
He was trying to roll with it.
Yeah. And so he did that, but he wasn't exactly the smartest guy all the time, but he was clever and funny like that. So his dad was typical toxic masculinity type thing. I'm the dad, don't disobey me, grow up, be kind of manly, because he liked all this stuff, like sort of like the Comic-Con type of thing. And he wanted, at one point, a Darth Vader helmet or mask that would change his voice. And he kept nagging, and he said, pestering my mom, pestering my mom. Well, the dad got sick of it after a while, and he's like, that's childish or whatever, which that was a bit of an overreaction. But so he said he got the vacuum, I guess, cord and spanked him with it. And
Yikes.
He said it was the worst pain he's ever felt.
All because
physically.
he wanted this toy and he kept asking
Right,
for it.
right. And he's 14, and I think it was more like, just a helmet type of thing. But he was careful. Ali was careful to describe what his dad did as an overreaction, which we're going to see everything Ali Abulaban does in his whole life is nothing but an overreaction with a great bit of drama and flair, just like you add salt and pepper to something. So he's just like that. Now, his mom, she was kind of stayed back a little bit, but at a certain point, his mom had strayed from the relationship with the dad, and I think that Ali held his mom in contempt, and the way that he ends up treating the lady in his life is stuff he's taken out on his lady that's about his mom and his dad.
I have people in my life that I know for sure treated women as a result of that, like had issues with their own mom. One person in particular I'm thinking of, he talked about how his parents split up, the mom had an affair, possibly with somebody at work, and his dad blamed her and made sure that the son knew that he blamed her, and then the son grew up to blame her as well. And I do feel like there was a lot of consistent mistreatment, if you will, of women because he could never really face the fact that he blamed and resented his mom so much. So it sounds like Ali Abulaban was doing the same sort of thing.
definitely. And the dad was real proud of their culture. And Ali he kept saying, I'm a first generation American. He wanted to hold on to that and be like his friends and stuff. But he said his dad would say stuff to him in Arabic or whatever language they were speaking at the moment there, and said, we don't do that. It was some of the things that we let our 14-year-olds do type of thing, like spend the night over or what have you. So he didn't get to do all that kind of stuff. And so then, I mean, I think he's a nice looking guy. He is,
he's handsome.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of energy.
He's not as handsome a man to me as his wife was a beautiful woman.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So,
Ana.
Yeah, he didn't finish college. He's tried to start college, and that was something that he couldn't do. So he decides at a certain point, I'll go in the military.
And that's how he met Ana.
In Okinawa, which they both were real quick to say it's one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Well, my dad was a carpenter for the military, and we lived in Bermuda for 3 years in the mid-'80s. And a lot of the kids I went to school with, they had been stationed in Okinawa. They'd also been stationed in Cuba at that time. But everybody I talked to who lived really in both places, they said they loved it. But everybody went on and on about Japan and how gorgeous it was.
Yeah, and they loved that. And so he wanted in intelligence. It was in the Air Force, but I don't think they had that available at the moment. And instead of waiting, because he wanted to
he wanted something special, didn't he?
Yes.
He thinks he's special.
Oh, yeah, this starts way early. And then he also wanted out from under that dad. So he thought, I'll be in the Air Force. I can live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. Going to be gorgeous, beautiful women there, too. I'm going to learn stuff.
Judge not that you be not judged. I mean, he turned right into his daddy.
Right. He did, didn't he? And see, when he was younger, he had ADHD, and he kind of would just be distracted and couldn't concentrate. And his dad could not stand that. There are some people that are like, what's wrong with you? A lot of people that do have ADHD, they have a hard time concentrating or tuning in sometimes.
Yes, it makes sense. Yeah. It can be frustrating if you don't know how to deal with that or don't want to.
Exactly. So, but that kind of lent to his creativity. He could do his creativity, and he knew how to do a lot of the technological stuff on the internet. He was good at that. So when he's over in Okinawa, and Ana, she's from the Philippines, but they're there in Okinawa as well. And he sees her, and he's just smitten. He can't quit looking at her.
She's beautiful. Yeah. I can see why.
Right. And people said that not only was she beautiful and stunning and exotic, that she was a gamer. She was a little gamer girl. She liked to play her games, and she was fun, and she was sweet and thoughtful and kind of acquiesced, and kind of everybody said they were better for knowing her. I mean, everybody. So he was attracted to that at first, but then when they kind of got together as boyfriend and girlfriend, he didn't like all that.
Right, because she was probably stealing his thunder in his mind, because she was naturally charismatic, naturally beautiful, naturally warm, all the things he strived to be, but it didn't come naturally, it sounds like.
Right. He kind of got to take some of the betterment from her when they were out, because
her shine rubbed off on him.
Right. People accepted that, but he'd come in and he was like he's just a loud mouth and a crotchety old snake to people sometimes. At first, now, if he had an audience, this is where I think this guy, Ali Abulaban's drug of choice was attention. Okay, I get it. I want attention.
Exactly. So at some point, they decide to move back to the United States, right? It's her friends that are saying, I think it's time for him to get out of the Air Force, or he's trying to make up his mind if he's going to. And her friends were encouraging him, hey, you're doing so well, because he'd built up. Some of his videos were getting millions of views at this point. So he had reason to think that he could build on this momentum, and he was doing well and wanting to make it a career, it sounds like. So they decided to move to San Diego, where they felt like California, it could benefit his career. But then she started to participate, from what I understand, and was in some of the videos. She would shoot them for him and then sometimes pop in. And then she started to get her own following, and lots of people were enjoying her, and he just could not take it.
Right. He couldn't take that. And he couldn't take it out in the scene when they were over in Okinawa either, that when they'd be out and about, he didn't want anybody looking at Ana, as he calls her, or Ana. He didn't want anybody looking at her, and kind of estranged her friends, kind of pushed them away a little bit.
Big red flag when somebody wants to isolate you.
Right, exactly. And so he, at one of the gatherings they were out, I think he says that he fell into Ana, and someone else said he attacked her. So he got asked to leave the military.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that's how it came about.
It was other than honorable discharge. So he's out of there. So they've been together. So he has to come back to Virginia, where his family is, and Ana stays over there. Well, what she finds out, she got a little surprise. She's going to have a baby.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
And so he works hard to get her a visa to come over here and for her to be able to come over here. And that is when they go back to Virginia, always back to Virginia, because that's where the patriarch is. And you don't mess with that. So he goes there. Then her little sweet self, and that she likes all the things she likes, she goes to San Diego because that's where a lot of her friends from Japan and the Philippines had relocated. San Diego. And that was fun to her. Virginia wasn't her vibe. And it wasn't Ollie's either. So but during this time, he's done all these videos where he does like Scarface and Tony Montana, and he even does Keanu Reeves. He does him pretty good. And there's one person that's critical of some of the things on TikTok and all that kind of stuff. He tries to do impersonations, but I mean, I thought he did pretty good. It's not going to be exact, but I thought he did
some
pretty
people
good.
liked it. Like you said, I mean, we talked about it. He's getting millions of views on some of those videos.
Right. He had like 10,000, 40,000, and then things started jumping up when he started being quote unquote Jinn Kid, JINNKID.
And what does that mean exactly?
Jinn over in his culture means not good, not bad, not look at me, don't look at me. It's kind of, neutral. So he calls himself Jinn Kid on there. And it's the whole thing. He does videos all the time. His phone's on all the time. Like you said, he does have Ana, even as what they call the POV hand, like the point of view hand that's pointing in there. And then as a person in his videos too. So he videos everything and people enjoy it because he is talented that way. So she gets in there with him and this is his life. He loves this content and these followers more than anything. He even told her at one point when they were arguing, he said, I'm a f***ing God.
An effing God.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how could she not have missed
Right,
that?
right,
How could she not have known that?
I don't know. And then he tells her, you're lucky to be with me. And then he'll start, he's one person here and another person at home with just her.
I think a lot of women can relate to that. And it sounds like he's getting that dopamine hit from all that attention from being online.
Right, exactly. Well, and then he takes a character. I mean, he's like Al Pacino. I mean, that's a good-looking guy, and he's epic, and there are a lot of things people remember from the movies he did, and it's a good way for him to play bad guy type of thing. But then he starts evolving into this, bad guy and talking vulgar and loud and trying to scare everything. You don't know if he's on or not. Is this you or not? So he's doing all that, and people are loving it. He if his likes went down, he literally got depressed.
Yikes. So he wasn't building a stable life outside of this attention that he was receiving from social media.
No, he said,
all hinged on it.
Exactly. I'm going to be an actor. I'm this close. I'm going to be an actor. I mean, but you may be doing some imitations, but you're not doing a good job acting. And we'll see when he gets on the witness stand later how this goes, his acting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So he's continuing to build his following. Ana's starting to see her following grow as well. I think he's becoming more and more jealous. And then we're starting to hear reports of drug use that came out in the trial, that he had started to use cocaine on a regular basis. And, for folks who aren't familiar, that's the one drug it seems like that people causes a little bit of rage, almost like testosterone does, because it's an upper, I guess. And you're the pharmacist.
Yeah.
But, it does seem to, when some really heinous things happen, and somebody's like, I was high.
Right.
When you're on an upper like that, it seems like it can be especially awful.
Right. It's a stimulant. So he had been on ADHD medicine before, and it's a stimulant. But if you have ADHD, you don't get that same lift that a person that does not have ADHD would have. So he's done that, but he may have some of the nervousness and the anxiousness and maybe a headache or something. So he's kind of used to that. But that cocaine and stuff, that's why people like it. That monkey's on their back, as he calls it. He as he refers to it, it's like, I took a bump. I took 4 bumps. I bump.
Made him feel like
24/7.
Superman.
And so he would do that, and then he could perform. And then he'd be coming down. He'd try to perform when he was crashing, and those videos were crap, because he's high and low, falling up and down and all around. So, like I said, his drug of choice was attention.
That's terrible. So when did things start to go awry with him and Ana? It sounds like from a domestic violence point of view that was happening before they ever left Japan. And that came out some in the trial as well, when I believe her sister was giving her victim's impact statement, saying that they had no idea that he had been as abusive as he was for so long. So it sounds like things were heating up in their home and not in a good way. They had a daughter together. So fast forward to 2021, this daughter's about 5 years old. And according to folks who testified at the trial, the domestic abuse is starting to really ramp up about this time. So she wants to split. She doesn't want to be with him anymore. And somehow or another, which surprised me, he agrees for her and their child, Amira, I believe, to stay in the apartment together, and he leaves. But unbeknownst to her, he's keeping a very close eye on both of them.
Right, he's in a hotel there, and he's making good money, decent money from, being this character. But he kind of went bonk when he got that blue check, that's on the internet. When he got that on Instagram, he really thought he had arrived then. And just to be fair, Ana was doing cocaine also, and they both were doing the partying scene. She wasn't doing it near the way he was, because we've got this guy with this very fragile ego, and everything's about him. Can you imagine how exhausting that is when you're with someone that all day, every day is all about the mayor of Meesville?
Yes, I can't imagine that, actually. I'm in news. I meet those people all the time. But it is awful. I know. It's just like, golly, yet another succubus black hole of energy that wants to dominate the room because they think the sound of their voice is the most important thing in the world to all of us. Like, here to tell you that ain't so.
Well, being in news.
Go ahead and get into politics, because that's where all you people are, you know?
We all have to listen. Well, he recorded her all the time because he liked his own voice too. So he's recording her, and he can't stand anytime there's another man around. It is just unreal how overreactive, like his father.
Just fundamentally insecure, it sounds like.
And then he'll call her names. He's called her biatch, this, all kind of ugly names. It's all recorded. He's the one that gave it to us. And then he always starts with like this, he just sounds like such a panty way saying all this stuff. And he goes, oh, so you're sleeping with him. And I can't stand when people do that. It's like, do you realize what you're saying shows us what you are?
Right, and I assume he was cheating on her as well.
He was.
Because if he's accusing her of that, most likely he is.
Right. And he'd throw things out. He's been ugly to her, and she doesn't necessarily feel like cuddling up next to him or whatever. And then he goes, when's the last time you satisfied me? When's this? When's that? And it's all about that. You don't deserve to be here. I brought you over here. Is there any other man that would have brought you over here? I'm thinking, duh, I'm anybody on the planet Earth.
Well, and that was part of it, too, that shocked me. He was putting these arguments online. He was letting people see this. It was like real life drama, almost like reality television, if you will, but on social media. And how twisted is that he thought that actually justified his point of view?
Right. Well, and how dumb is it for you to do that and then put like a little vignette or a little skit that goes, he literally is in his like skinny leg jeans or skinny boy jeans and doing all the dancing and stuff and saying, what your relationship looks like when it's drama free. I'm like, you are so dumb.
He is dumb. Well, I say hats off to her for finally, putting her foot down and saying this is enough, because they were together a total of 7 years, I think, by the time, or around 7 years, even though they weren't married initially, but it was around 7 years by the time he did what he did. But yeah, fast forward to that time in October of 2021, she puts her foot down, he moves out, she's trying to move forward, rebuild her life, but it's only been 3 days and he was already acting a fool.
Already. That's what he does. Well, and she had, like I said, she had tons of friends too, male friends and girlfriends and friends. She liked life. And so she had a friend named Ray Cardenas, and he was a construction worker. He's way better looking than Abulaban.
Definitely, I thought so too.
Yeah. And he's kind and sweet and helpful, and he's not out there doing the bump and grind and the yuck and all that kind of stuff like that makes you a woman, because Ali Abulaban had hit her plenty of times, and so she would fight back with him a little bit, but he would be saying, I'm sorry, and then he'd send a video so all of us could see it too, and to her and say, I'm just a dummy, I'm just learning. And I'm like, that is so trite and stupid. And the fact that you put it out here for people to look at, everybody's 100% her, seeing the crazy stuff he does.
I know. And speaking of crazy stuff, what he does next is pretty insane. But before we get into that, we just want to take a quick moment to thank Joe Zarzar of Zarzar Law for his support of Gulf Coast Confidential. If you're not familiar with this personal injury attorney, he takes a lot of headline-making cases around here in the Gulf Coast of Florida, as well as Alabama. We've been following several of his cases here. One is against Jay Hospital, which is a hospital here in our area, where some staff members are accused of basically taking inappropriate pictures of patients while they were unconscious, either asleep or, under medication, and posting pictures of them naked and putting them on social media. And then it came to the hospital's attention that this had happened, and they said that they immediately fired the staff. But then they went to some of the patients that they believe were impacted by this, and instead of showing them the pictures, they just said, according to Joe Zarzar, sign here to make this all go away. We need a release. What they did was wrong, but we don't want to get in trouble, and we'll give you a little bit of money for it. And this is according to the lawsuits that have been filed in this. So at any rate, those are some of the cases that he handles. When you've been hurt through no fault of your own, whether it's somebody taking advantage of you in a situation like that, or another case that he's handling, Dr. Sheknowski, who's accused of removing Mr. Bryan's liver from Alabama, Mr. Bryan from Muscle Shoals instead of his spleen. And that is an ongoing lawsuit. We appreciate the fighting that he's been doing on behalf of Mr. Bryan's widow, Beverly. I know that's such a shocking thing for her. And then lastly, another headline-making case is he's representing a family of a little boy, 10 years old, who police say a postal worker tried to run him over right here in the Pensacola area because he thought this young boy, who is a minority, a young black boy, was stealing packages when in fact he was just getting a package for his uncle, and he was on his little motorized scooter, and they had to pull the motorized scooter out from underneath the postal truck because this postal worker, who is white, took it upon himself to, I guess, hold this kid accountable for what he perceived as theft, and he tried to run this kid over, and the kid is okay. But, thankfully we have people like Joe Zarzar who are, I don't know, who are defending these cases and taking this on and trying to find answers for these families.
Right. Well, he'll go up there and he can't have a glass jaw because he gets hit all the time, but he's in there to take the punches, And this man's name was White, Mr. William White Jr., and then he's yelling at the boy, calling him the N-word and anything he can do. I think the little boy, 10-year-old boy, realized that's the wrong address, and he's trying to be helpful. So you're a grown man working for the United States government, post office, and you don't know how to de-escalate that or talk to this 10-year-old child?
Well, and let's say worst case scenario, what if the kid had been trying to steal the package? Running him over excuses that? That is insane to me. And he was not trying to steal, which is just horrific on every level. It just sounds to me like this guy just wanted an excuse to be the jerk that he is. So big shout out to Joe Zarzar of Zarzar Law, and we appreciate his support of Gulf Coast Confidential. But moving on back now to Ali Abulaban. So we were talking about the crazy things that he finally did. She'd moved out 3 days into their separation. He's angry at her. He sends her groceries. He sends her flowers. Pick it up from there, because there was a pumpkin and some roses, and he was all ticked off at the way she responded.
Right. More weird stuff. It's like, if you don't act and do and respond the way he says, then he thinks he has the right to go like explosive, like a grenade. But when he's talking, this is what made me so upset here in the trial. When he's talking, he goes back to this like whispering, and then I sent her this and she didn't do that. And what kind of man is going to be able to accept that? And I'm just like, shut the up. I can't take all that. But anyway, that's what he did. He made a little list. She didn't ask for these groceries. She didn't ask for these roses. She didn't ask for this pumpkin. So he wants to be all up in her business and be looking and see what all she's doing. Well, he sends all that to the house. She's not there. But the groceries and the pumpkin and the flowers, she just puts them up on the counter there, the island like people have. Well, he literally is looking, going, they gave me a notification that they've been delivered. She should be calling me right now. I mean, what, she like gonna just fall out dead because he sent her groceries. She does have his child there, and you want the roses there because you want something to happen from that. And then the pumpkin, I don't know what that was about. What made him mad?
That immediately made me think of Peter Pumpkin Eater had a wife and couldn't keep her.
Right.
There he kept
Yeah.
her very well in a pumpkin shell.
That's right. Till the pumpkin went to hell. I don't know. You know?
Well, it certainly did in this case.
No, it did, yeah. So he had done that, and so he decides, well, I'm going over there because she hadn't answered me fast enough. But in the interim, she goes, got groceries, thanks. Okay, that's
And
a
he
thank you.
lost
They said,
it.
oh, yeah. So he goes over there. So he goes over there and sees that the groceries are on the counter.
'Cause she's not there at that time, right?
Mm-mm. I think she's at Dunkin' Donuts or something. That's what she says. Well,
He kept a key. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
so he could let himself in and out. I'm sure that she did not want that to be part of the deal.
Nope. She was going to get a restraining order the next day and the locks changed the next day. You know how these go. And so he gets over there, and what makes him so mad, he's like, this heifer didn't even put the milk up, you know, and I mean, that I sent over here. When is it always about you? When you give a gift to someone, if it's just what you can get out of them or bribe them or paying for sex or whatever it is you're doing, you know, don't send a gift. I don't understand that. But so he does that. Then he decides he's even madder. So he takes the pumpkin, smashes the pumpkin like smashing pumpkin, all in there. He throws the roses in the vase down. Anyway, he trashes her apartment.
A temper tantrum.
Yeah, a toddler, a toddler tantrum. And so he makes all that happen, and then he leaves. Well, in the time being, Anna gets back home.
I think she had taken her kid to school,
She
their
had-
daughter.
Right. And so she's by herself. She gets home and goes, what happened? She knows what happened. This knucklehead's here. So she calls her friend, Ray Cardenas, because he's helpful and nice and doesn't want her life to be all miserable. And he comes over to help her clean it up before the girl, the 5-year-old, gets home from school. She didn't want her daughter coming to see yet more drama, chaos, and effery.
Right.
You know? So he's there, and he's going to help her clean up. That's what puts Ray there.
Yes. And so, but unbeknownst to her, while he was there, not only did he trash the place, but he had also found their daughter's iPad and had installed an app that allowed him to listen in on what was being said. And that's when he knew that Ray was over there, and that it's like he just couldn't think reasonably or rationally, and it came out in trial that he'd done more cocaine, so I'm sure that wasn't assisting in rational thought either. So he's feeling mistreated, he's jealous, he's furious, things he can't control, he's already entitled, and everything's about him. So he hears this male voice, and it probably just sent him into orbit, into a jealous rage, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, well, that's what he has assigned it to anyway, that anything is how he says it is. You know, a construction worker on the street's fixing to have sex with her. The man at Publix is going to have sex with her because he said so. You know, no, everybody's not a dog thinking like that, like you
But
are.
that's how he thinks.
Yeah, that's how he thinks. So he did that. I mean, you take your 5-year-old's tablet and put, what was it, that Discord app on there so you can listen. And he said he deliberately slid it under the bed so he could hear them having sex. Okay.
Okay, weird.
Yeah, well, this is who we're talking
Gross.
about, this knucklehead. And so he does that. And so Ray's over there trying to help her pick all
Clean
that.
up.
Any reason, he's doing any reason to make her life better. That somebody that loves you and cares about you is not interested in making your life worse every second of every day.
You know, so many of these stories that we do, and I feel like when we cover these cases, this is the worst case scenario of these types of situations, if you will. Like when somebody's been murdered, if there's domestic violence involved, this is the worst case scenario. But these problems have been existing in their relationship for some time, and it came to this horrible, untimely end. And then I think of all the relationships of people who are perhaps even listening to this podcast, or those that it never reaches that point, but they're experiencing similar problems. And I have to say, just listen to the way this guy behaves. It reminds me of a lot of other cases that we've covered. And it also reminds me of just local stories and individuals that we all know. My heart really goes out to these women, and I feel like, you know, part of the importance of doing this show is to talk about these red flags, but somebody who, you know, it's natural for women to want to acquiesce, and I think sometimes it's normal, whether it's part of your personality or maybe part of how you were raised, to please, to accommodate, to put somebody else's needs and happiness over your own. But it's never enough. And especially with someone like this,
Oh, yeah.
even if he wasn't feeding his insecurities with, false bravado with cocaine and attention on social media, he was clearly always going to be very selfish.
yeah.
He was clearly always going to be that guy that was jealous and always assuming the worst about her. And of course she's going to be attracted, whether it's physically or just as a friend, to someone who's going to be kind and pay attention. And I feel like that's the whole reason I brought this up.
Right.
For those folks who are listening, we all deserve to be treated well. And you don't have to bend over backwards to, make someone happy who's making your life miserable.
Right. Well, there's that little saying that says, you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep that person warm,
Right. And that's what he wanted from her.
Anything like that. And he wanted everything to be only about him. A person that loves you, you know it. You don't have to guess and go, a person that loves you does not want you to feel less than or feel that way.
Right.
It shouldn't hurt.
And you shouldn't have to prove your worth. You shouldn't have to go toe-to-toe with somebody and argue with them just to be heard. If somebody, and I saw this on a video the other day, if you're talking to somebody and trying to set a boundary and the first reaction that you get is being attacked, then that's not somebody who really wants good communication. That's not someone who's capable or has the capacity to respect your boundaries. And that's a sign. Back away, get away.
Right.
Because you can't fight them enough to make them believe it. You can't argue with them to see enough to see logic or be reasonable. They don't want to see logic or be reasonable.
Right. A person that pushes back on a boundary is the very one you need to establish. That tells you I've been on the right track here.
Yes.
And then, there's so many wonderful people in the world. There's 8 billion people in the world, and you're stuck with this ding-ding? You're not stuck.
She's so beautiful, too.
Oh,
she
yeah.
was.
And she was resourceful, and she obviously had no trouble attracting men. He's so paranoid about it all the time. And not that she even needed that to move forward. She wanted to keep the chaos down as much as she could because she's got a 5-year-old. And he did that typical thing of well, I give you money and stuff. And that is one of the main, I've never been married, so I guess I'm an expert. Never been married. But when I hear people say, I pay you and blah, 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 it's not paying the mother or the father. That is the child support that the judge in the robe up there told you to pay for your children.
You helped create that child. You are responsible for their care.
Right. But when they say, I pay you, I don't like all that. He loses effing mind up in her house, trying to stir up her house. See, go over back to your house. Keep the chaos there. I'm real big about that.
Tear up your hotel room, man. Pretend you're a rock star.
Right. I'm real big about that in my life. If you're acting too much of a fool and stuff, I don't want that. I never have. My parents never wanted a lot of that around us and stuff. But in a domestic violence thing, it is typical that a person, they say anywhere between 6, 7, or 8 times tries to leave. And as they always say, this is the most dangerous time is when you are trying to leave. So if you can help it, you don't necessarily want to telegraph that. You want to get your ducks in a row.
I know. Well, and one of these days we'll do a series just on all my bizarre and terrible decisions in my romantic life. It would have to be multiple parts. But there was a situation many, many years ago where I did break up with an individual, and a good friend said, change the locks on your house because this individual had a key to my house. And I said, well, do you think I need to do it today? I got things I got to do. And he said, if you've never listened to me about anything else ever in the world, listen to me about this. He goes, change the locks on your house. And I'll be darned if that night I didn't hear him trying to get into the house and I had already changed it.
Thank goodness.
Well, and there are times when I feel like that is important. There's times when I have not listened to my intuition or have not listened to the good advice. There's that Alanis Morissette song, it's the good advice that you just can't take.
Right.
There's been plenty of times I've ignored the good advice, but there was something about that and I decided, you know what, I just need to go ahead and prioritize this and do it. And this same individual ended up following me and it became a situation and fortunately it eventually de-escalated. But that's why I guess I'm thinking about these things because there's bound to be so many other people there that, are in hot water, if you will, and it hasn't boiled over to the point of homicide or maybe physical harm, but it has the potential to do that. So I would just encourage anybody who's listening who feels like, geez, maybe I do need to set some boundaries. Maybe these are some red flags. Listen to yourself.
Right.
Better to err on the side of caution.
Right. And you have to be careful who your trusted others are. You can't just tell everybody everything. And so that's a barrier, obstacle at first. And then you have to have money. That's an obstacle too sometimes. And then you have to make sure you're talking to someone that's got good sense too.
Well,
know?
that's the truth, because
Yeah.
you don't want to go to somebody who's just going to tell you what you want to hear if what you want to hear is going to keep you in a bad situation.
Right. So all that going on, while you've already got the stress of this domestic violence or
Trying to be a good mommy, trying to protect her daughter from this
Right.
whole situation.
Right. And you got someone that's high maintenance, having to be validated every time they breathe. I mean, that's a lot.
Bottomless pit
Yeah.
of needs. So
yeah.
he trashes her apartment. He leaves. He's listening into this device,
He's at his house by now.
the hotel room, and then Ray's there trying to help her clean up. And then he tries to say that he just became overwhelmed with rage and had to get over there. But to me, all of this seems like a real pattern of behavior. He's
Oh, yeah.
always been abusive. He's lost control. She's left, and it looks like she wants to leave for good this time. And here she is over there, invited. His destruction has given her an opportunity to bond with this man that he's so jealous of, essentially, even though she's just used, having a friend come over to help her clean up, using his help, if you will. But he doesn't see it that way. He looks at it like an invitation to go punish her and him.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
He's a punisher. He thinks she needs to be punished. He's like, how dare you do that to me? While he's out here being a hoe in the streets and everything he can be, and he wants to be self-righteous about stuff. That's what we'll see in the court case. I mean, that's the part that's extra infuriating. But Ray's over there helping her clean up the mess he caused. I mean, and it was a hot mess. I mean, I've seen the pictures of it.
He trashed the place.
Yeah, it was awful. And so he could hear, and so I guess they're trying to make the best of a bad thing. They're talking, and he hears a man's voice, and that lights him up because he doesn't know Ray's coming over there. And then they're laughing, so he's already assigned that they're in bed. He said, now I'm waiting on moans and groans and stuff. And I'm like, you are a sicko. Just a very sicko. So he said, on the stand, I got my pants on and I grabbed my keys and I bump. So he did 5 bumps of cocaine.
And he put it all on video?
Yeah, and he's telling us about it too. On the stand, he literally thinks the judge is like,
He lives in a fantasy world.
I mean, it's awful. It's nasty. I can't stand him if you can't tell.
I agree, because it's just not reasonable.
Yeah. So he goes over there, he brings his gun, and he makes sure to tell us, well, I had concealed carry in Virginia. We don't care. You're in the east part of the city in San Diego, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. We don't care what you did in Virginia. But he brings his gun over there because, you're going to go back and check on the groceries again. I guess you got to have a gun.
Right,
So-
because that smashed pumpkin might get up and get you.
Right. So he goes in the elevator. They lived on the 35th floor of the condos or apartments called Spire. It was really, really nice. You could see the bay and everything. So he's up there. He's kind of mad, and he's getting himself ready to be like a grenade or something. And so he's on the elevator, and some people come in, and he's pissed off at them because they have a life too, I guess. How dare you get on the elevator when I'm fixing to go kill somebody, 2 people, So he's on there, and he's on video. We see it. You can watch his ride all the way up to the 35th floor. Then there's a ring there. You can see him going to Anna's thing. He gets off the elevator and walks hastily to their Anna's house. And you can hear him getting in. Then you hear 4 shots, then 2 shots. He makes sure to shoot Ray first, so she has to watch. And then he shoots her. He shoots her in the face. That's where all her beauty is, and he shoots him in the head. But what made him so mad, he said, I went in there, and all I saw was Anna first, and I couldn't see him because she was leaning up to see who was coming in the door. And then he said when she kind of leaned back, or he leaned up, and he said, this is what made me so mad. I saw his feet on my coffee table. Now, this is what this ding-ding says sets him off, and that was disrespectful to me. All the stuff he's done.
So he gets to kill him.
Yeah, this is what he's telling for the truth on the witness stand, thinking there's some, I guess, 12 women with lobotomies sitting up there thinking he's so handsome. Now, I did call him Ponytail the whole time because he did have pretty black hair, and there was a lot of it, and had it pulled back like this. And at first, then he kind of thought he was, I guess, a dark-haired Fabio wannabe, and he's sitting there.
Just ask him.
Yeah, but he looked, here's how my crazy mind thinks. Well, your ears don't look so big with that hair back like that. Do that look.
Dumbo, you might could fly.
Yeah, but I mean, he looked better that way. So he had that going on. He's up there, and he kept doing this and everything while he's on the stand. He literally thought everybody was hanging on every word when they were basically going, shut up, muff.
Well, I thought it was revealing, because at the end of this trial, the jury does convict him. They don't buy this rage defense. They realize that this guy's been abusive for years, that this was cold and calculated, and he was convicted of both of those murders. It was first degree murder. So basically he, got a stiffer penalty for that. But it was interesting to me that in response to that, he said, essentially outraged that the jury came back with this decision when it took them less time to make the decision than it took for him to be on the stand.
Yeah. Oh,
and he was on the stand for 3 days.
Yeah.
So he thought because he talked for 3 days that he had so much wisdom and so much information for them to consider that was insulting that they came back so quickly. That what he had to say was so important, they should still just be back there chewing on it.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable.
He is something. Well, I would think anybody interested in the law or just want to see a good prosecutor sit him down over and over and over, he tried to go back and forth with her, like, he'd be, and imagine that's how he fought with her, that kind of weirdo stuff
Well, it's
people
entitled,
do.
and he's not looking to have a relationship with anybody. He just wants somebody to be a sounding board and a cheerleading squad and a sex machine apparently, and a cook and a parent to him and their child. He doesn't want to be a grown up. He just wants all the energy and the attention for himself and just drain anybody that's around him.
Well, even that, wanting that for yourself, I mean, that's enough. I mean, you can drown on drinking water. I mean, stop already.
Too bad he didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's something else. But so after he shoots them, he goes out of the room
and goes and picks up their daughter. From school.
Yeah, he goes there, but first he goes back to the elevator, and then he decides, I got to make sure that I make this look a certain way. Goes back to the house, yelling her name, Ana, Ana. Then when he's coming out, he calls his mom, and he says, Mom, I killed Anna. I shot her. I killed her. Well, before Anna, however you say it, had called his mother many times, and she's like, I don't know what else to tell you. Leave him. Get away from him. Come here. She does have a granddaughter there, too. She knows how he is. But this mother plays both ends against the middle. But so he sends her, he's taken a picture of Ray and Anna, 2 pictures. He sends her those pictures. Dead. Sends her the pictures, his dad the pictures, and a friend so they can have them. And before he leaves out of that room, he takes Anna's head, pushes it down in Ray's lap. So she will be looking like that. And that's what the picture he has. And he tells his mama, I'm sorry. See, this is where this crybaby, cry bully comes back in. I do all this mean stuff, and then I go, I'm sorry, Mommy. What the What's wrong with you?
Well, that makes me infuriated as well, but that's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. So he's relieved his anxiety, his rage by committing these murders, by committing crime, and he thinks that he's going to solve that and reduce his anxiety by taking pictures of it, by disrespecting her corpse even more, both of them, and then sending it to his parents. Like the law is going to be like, well, you're right. We won't charge you with murder because you're super cool, and you got a blue check from Instagram, and your mommy and daddy wipe your booty, so you can kill people and be ridiculing them.
Yeah. Well, and it's so ridiculous. Send it to the daddy you can't stand because the daddy's telling you you're being a bit juvenile, and that was wrong for his dad to beat him with a cord, if indeed that happened. That's what he says.
But that's no justification to grow up to be a homicidal a-hole.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm like, is jackass one word or two? That's what I want to know.
Jackassery?
Yeah.
Jackassification?
Yeah. We could go on and on, couldn't we? Because he's an idiot. But he goes out there, then he calls 911 and goes, my wife and a man, he says, my wife and another man have been shot like that instead of I just shot them.
Been shot, just randomly bullets fall from the sky.
Well, it reminded me of when Randy found my sister.
I thought the same thing. Yeah, somebody's been stabbed. My son, my
ex-wife of 20 years. Yeah. So that did something to me too, and that's probably why all this upsets me extra, is because he did that, but a neighbor has called 911 in the time being. They heard the shots. So we got his 911. Ana had taken the baby girl to school that morning. Her friend was going to pick up their daughter, but because she said, I got to clean up this mess Psycho made here. And so, but Ali Abulaban gets through killing them in time to go pick up the daughter before Ana's friend can pick her up. So he picks up his daughter after he's killed
I know.
And
I couldn't believe that. And
right.
then he tells her, I hurt mommy. It's almost like he just wants everybody else to carry his anxiety over what he's done.
Right. Well, think about how that is with a grown man that does something that's not necessarily murder or homicide. They do something and they're maybe upset with the mama or their significant other or something. And you put it on the 5-year-old for them to carry or even know.
Horrible. And then worried to death about her mom.
Right. And that's just like Chris Watts, trying to make those 2 little babies have to carry all his stuff. Grown people don't put that on the slender little shoulders of a child for no reason.
No, and he certainly should never have taken her mother from her either.
No. Well, so there they are on the interstate, and he gets pulled over. But he's got that gun, and he's got a bunch more bullets and stuff with it too. And then she's there. So they basically got him pulled over. Thank God, because who knows, with his crazy thinking,
100%.
he's going to say, well, I'm going to get rid of her too, and this, and then I have sent him mommy and daddy pictures. The mama he can't stand for leaving their family all of a sudden is his mama, who, by the way, at the same time, when he's on the witness stand, she's blowing him kisses.
Oh, that's sick.
I'm telling you, this is some effery. Right
man,
here.
Sounds like she should have just kept him up underneath her apron strings and kept him from going out and hurting anybody else in the world.
Yep. And I mean, early on like that, and him basically saying, I was bullied. Everything he says, happened to me, he turned around and did it en masse to people.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, he showed his butt multiple times during the trial as well. He was so outraged, couldn't keep his temper in check, would yell out during testimony if he felt like he was being maligned, if you will. But I thought it was interesting at one point when he was losing his stuff, the judge told him to calm down and he became enraged. And he said, quote, you think I wanted this for my 5-year-old daughter? Who the F are you? I'm effing hurt. My life is destroyed. Dude, you're still up and breathing, man. You know, your wife is dead. This young man who was just there to help her is dead. Your daughter doesn't have a mommy anymore that's alive. How dare you? Your life is destroyed? But you're alive.
Yeah, that is how he thinks. It's all about me. And I mean,
Constantly.
literally, if vulgarity, if you look it up in the dictionary, there he is. He's a vulgar individual in all ways. But for him, that judge, buddy, go ahead and do what you got to do. I got your
love
number.
that.
Prosecutor had his number. All the people in the gallery had his number because you could just see it happening. And you look and go, this is our system that lets people do that. But that's why it's great. We'll let you show crazy art. Because he said, I was this close to being an actor.
Nope.
I mean, okay, good
Well,
for you.
go ahead, get on the stand. Try to
Right.
act like you're a human being
That's
with
what
a
he tried.
heart and
That's
with an
what he
empathy,
tried.
and you don't.
Right, instead of saying, I killed her, and I killed him, and I took this little girl's mommy, and now her dad's gone. But, I mean, he doesn't care. Everything's back to him. And think if he would have become famous or something, like big-time famous. We got a psychopath on our hands. But
I think we already have that in Hollywood to a certain
Well,
extent, too, to be honest. But I mean, not to say that's a sweeping, but I have, we have all heard stories of, sometimes when people overdose on yes or excess and there's no accountability, even if they didn't start out that way, it can inflate their worst tendencies, if you will.
Right. Well, see, he had 2.5 years from when he was arrested to when, because this was just in May of 2024. And like I said, I watched the whole thing. I literally had to detox from it because I stayed mad about it because I say, well, I'm not going to watch it today. I'll just watch a recap or something. But I watched it because I wanted to see, because I'm dealing with the court system all the time. 10 days from now, I got to go back to court to petition to not let my nephew out so he can kill again, you know? But it's always something like that. But it's the best system in the world. It's not perfect, but there's always something to it. But with him, he's always blaming the judge or the prosecutor. And I thought it was very interesting. Everything he tried to do, that prosecutor. Oh, by the way, he had looked up in the interim after he trashed the place there. He had looked up chopped up bodies in a Google and decapitation and trash can. And so when they asked him about that, he's like, why are you asking me about that? Where'd you get that? And I mean, you don't, and that's what she kept saying, you don't ask me questions. And she's
not on trial. You are.
She stayed so calm. I mean, she had an answer for everything. He was used to running everybody like that. So, I mean, everything that he did is something that he said people did to him, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that's his justification for it.
Well, and I'm just thankful that the jury saw through that as well and convicted him, and he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, which is exactly where he belongs. I think it was 25 years for each, and he's in his early 30s, so,
Oh, yeah. He'll be there. Plus, the judge was looking at him and said, oh, he gave him what he wanted. You are a good actor. so much, and then he basically told him, what all he did, how terrible a person he was.
Said he didn't think he was remorseful.
Exactly. And he wasn't. He was not remorseful.
He was only sad for himself. Like when he got that sentence and just cried and
he
cried.
did.
I mean, the tears looked real, but that's because they were for himself.
Oh, yeah. Well, he didn't have his hair either by then. He got his hair shorn. But when they said guilty, people in the gallery clapped and like, woohoo, like that, which they're not supposed to do. But he turned around and he got mad at them and he just was like, making fun of them clapping. And I'm like,
you know who this reminds me of so much? Guess who I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
Dr. Ben Brown.
Okay, I was thinking
this reminds me of this so much.
is.
He's facing negligent manslaughter charges in the death of his wife, Hillary, who died after he performed several surgeries on her in his office. And for folks who are following, it's a whole series called Beauty Buyer Beware, and you can catch up on it. But he has not gone to trial yet. He said he's not guilty. But just in researching the case over and over again, whether it's problems from his first marriage, whether it's problems with Hillary before she died, whether it's accusations against patients who claim he's had botched surgeries, whether it's the unhappiness that was in his marriage allegedly before Hillary passed, over and over he has taken to social media to seek sympathy, in my opinion. Even when she was still on life support, his wife, he was like, my wife, prayers. But it was, to me, the vibe wasn't really about her. It was pushing the energy towards himself, how he sold her ski stuff on Facebook. Like, my wife doesn't ski anymore. Well, she also doesn't live anymore.
That's right.
She doesn't breathe. She can't be upright. She's in the ground. This is why she doesn't ski. But it just reminded me of that. And I feel like a lot of these cases, this behavior, this coming back to me, nothing's ever their fault. It's not my fault that, it wasn't that I gave her too much lidocaine, as what the Santa Rosa Sheriff's Office says, or that could have contributed to it. It's more that she made her own, solution. But at any rate, it just reminded me some of that, the blaming. And so many of these cases, these suspects are blamers.
Right. They're not grown-ups or they're not intelligent. Even Ray didn't make that mess over at the apartment. He's willing to help clean it up. This guy right here, everything that happens to him, like with Ben Brown, I mean, even this reminds me, too, of the O.J. case.
Oh, it definitely did. That was the first thing actually I thought of, especially because, he was obsessed with Nicole. And then poor Ron Goldman just returning the glasses. And I guess they knew each other. There had been some flirting, maybe a date or something, but it didn't seem to be anything hot and heavy. And Nicole was split from O.J., bottom line. And I know he was found not guilty of that, but he was found guilty in a civil trial for being responsible for those deaths. But that's where my mind went immediately, was the O.J. trial.
It's like no good deed goes unpunished. You're trying to do the right thing. And then, but yet we've got court DV, months of listening to this clown over here do all that.
And the Tepe case, it reminded me of that too. The new one out of Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
The dentist that was murdered and his wife Monique, and they just recently arrested her ex-husband. Was it David Michael McGee, I believe it?
I think that sounds right.
And so at any rate, I thought that was interesting because they divorced in 2017, Monique and David, and he's a surgeon, this McGee character, and what happened? Like, they've been divorced for a long time, but obviously it's been festering within him. Or if these charges are true, I don't want to innocent until proven guilty. But if these charges are true, gosh, he waited a long time before he did this. But it reminded me of that too. They were shot to death. She was shot once in the chest, and the dentist, was shot multiple times. So again, that seems like the green-eyed monster to me.
Oh yeah. Well, and to me, it's also people that cannot grasp that there are other people that are worthy. You're not the bee's knees.
Your pain isn't the most important thing in the world.
Right. And you're not the best looking. When you're young, or you play sports or you've done anything and stuff, you get upset like, I dropped that ball or blah, blah, blah. I got told real fast by my dad and my mom, there will always be somebody faster, smarter, this, that, and the other. Not minimizing me or anything, but quit. You're going to drop a ball sometime. And my mom was the mom that said, since you can't act right, come sit right here by me. And
I can act right.
I could.
Look how fast.
Yeah, there were some consequences, and they embarrassed me and stuff. And my mom, I ain't having a kid that don't know how to act. Sit right here. And I was like, I did not like to sit there often.
No, I do not blame you. Well, I'm looking forward to finding out what has been going on with him in prison. Years ago, I caught a documentary about Richard Speck, and I don't know if you remember him, but this is a case that dates back decades. But basically, he killed, I think, 7 or 8 nurses. One of them lived. Like, they were all roommates together. He busted in and locked them. Several were already home. He put them in a room. And I may be getting this wrong. I haven't researched it in a while. But at any rate, he killed a number of these nurses. Every time they came home, he would bring them back to the bedroom. And then once they all came home, one of them rolled up under the bed. And I guess he lost count. But he took them all out one by one and murdered them.
Oh, wow.
And I believe raped some of them as well. But at any rate, it was horrible. It was headline making. The one nurse that survived testified against him, and it put him in prison forever. And then fast forward years later, and this is what I remember seeing, was a documentary about what it was like for him in prison. And it made me sick to my stomach, and I couldn't tear my eyes away at the same time.
Wow.
I'd never seen anything like it. Like, somehow or another, they were sneaking in hormones. He was trying to turn himself into a woman.
What?
He was trying to give himself breasts. Like, you could see the breasts.
Wow.
And he had, I mean, they weren't like,
Yeah.
great breasts. But all I'm saying, I'm not
Okay.
trying to judge. But like, he had a boyfriend in there.
Wow.
And it was the two of them talking, and like, it was like he wanted to be a woman. Anyway, I think it's fascinating what happens to these guys after they get convicted. Are there any that ever see the light and that it's sincere? Because I don't even necessarily believe that they do. But like, just some of the weird stuff that happens later, like, okay, what's the psychology of this person? How much more closer to hell are they going to get before they actually pass on for their great reward?
Right. Well, they have to figure out some way to make it work. It's a little microcosm. you
Yeah.
know.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to following up on that. But thank you so much for joining us on this one, Pam.
You're welcome.
And we thank you for joining us. That is it for Tik Tok Star to Convict. Jealous, cocaine snorting Ali Abulaban murdered wife and friend. I'm your host, writer, and producer, Molly Barrows, with co-host and researcher Pam Hill. And a big thanks, as always, to our amazing and hardworking director, editor, and production engineer, James Roy. And remember, you can listen to more of our episodes right here on our YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We would just love it if you'd like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by Zarzar Law.